Hi, my name is Nell Reed, and I'm going to provide my take on the sonic boom. First, let me start off by saying that the book definitely did a great job in telling the narrative of sound, if you will. I think a lot of readers, including myself, left with definitely paying a lot more attention to the noises around us. And I think one of the great examples that he provided for readers was when you even eat a Pringle, really that sound of the crunch, it may be annoying to your neighbor, but that's something that lets the consumer, or literally the consumer of the chip, um, know that they are eating a Pringle because you do hear that loud crunch of the sound. And then I also started to think about how difficult it must have been for him as an author to write about sound, but it's also difficult for the reader as well to read about the sounds that he's referring to. And I even think a lot of the people that had similar reviews may have even mentioned that one of the things that was really hard was that some of the parts of the book seemed very drawn out, but honestly, he had to be very descriptive in order to be able to convey and illustrate some of the sounds that he was trying to talk about. But nonetheless, I had to review this book as a marketer. And the first thing as a marketer that kind of caught my eye was that the book didn't do such a great job of telling the reader how sound can really sell things. Um, I was really intrigued, like most people were, and maybe even a little bit hungry afterwards, about how Chili's fajita noise, can light up a room. But I wondered how how were their sales before the fajita sizzle came about, and how were the sales afterwards? I guess I was looking for some sort of comparison to say, oh, okay, well, I see that the sound does work and it isn't just an annoying nuisance for people to know that a hot plate is coming. Second, he talked really in depth about the grocery store, but he talked about the misters, and I realized that when the misters come on, even as a kid, I may have wanted to play in the water. But going back to thinking about it as a marketer, I'm thinking like, wow, you're talking about a grocery store. All the sounds that are in the room, you have everything from the cash register to the overhead music. Now, a popular blog called Movie Metrics did a post about the psychology of store sounds and indicated that stores see an increase of 32% when faster music is played because there's that arousal that leads people to move faster because the sound is in tune faster. But Joel pretty much indicated that, the sound of a game would probably just be as important. And that's not necessarily true. But again, I was looking for something in that nature where I could see how sound really did push a metric or sales metric forward. And I realized that, the whole aspect of sonic branding may be a new concept for some, but I still can't see many organizations renting a symphony to curate their anthem because there just wasn't enough justification in his book to really see an ROI. So with that said, I needed a lot more quantitative research to understand how sound actually transformed people. I think one of the best examples that he may have given was the sound of the slot machines, right? When you're in a casino, you're not thinking about anything other than winning money and spending endless amount of time in that casino. And casinos do a great job of keeping people inside of their building. And one of the ways that they do that is sound. And Joel indicated that just because of the click clacking of the machines, people can spend an estimated 24% extra longer period of time in the casino. So that was a great example. But going back to something that Joel indicated before, to the Chili's example, he did add that due to some neurological research that was presented, that sound is actually one of the stimuli that moves us faster. But there was a short chart that really didn't illustrate that point enough to say, okay, sound really does get you out of your seat. So again, because this book lacked that research, in some instances it did almost seem as if Joel was downplaying neuroscience, which is a huge way that you can really illustrate sound, and you can actually see what the brain is doing. Now, that would have made for a very boring book, but you do need some type of fMRI machine if you're going to talk anything about behaviors. So, like many people noted, and even the Financial Times, Joel did a great job of promoting his company, Man Made Music, and a lot of viewers may have indicated that it was almost a 200-page advertisement for his organization. So there were some aspects of being self-serving, and maybe that time could have been spent a little bit more on the research. And he even talked about working with companies like AT&T and Univision, but I didn't know still what he did with those organizations, and that may have had something to do with the fact that there wasn't any sound to go along to illustrate some of the work. But again, it really was a very drawn out portion of him talking about his organization. So, as mentioned, I think the book did a great job of talking about how sound affects our lives. But as a reader and as a marketer, I probably wasn't sold on that concept. And I say this at the end of the day because marketers spend a great deal of money on advertising, so or even branding. So the money is definitely there. And even eMarketer talked about how marketers spent $17.6 billion in advertising alone. But you can't present, or you can't provide the data that he did to really convey or to convince a marketer that it'll be worth it in the end. Of course, it's great to have, a jingle with your logo. With that said, and the book actually may have been better if Joel would have provided other aspects of branding, such as imagery, into how people can really be transformed in their buying decisions. And with that said, thank you so much for your time.